The tomb of the Chinese emperor's concubine is coincidentally in Japan. Couples come to her to ask Yang Guifei's soul for the birth of a beautiful daughter. But beauty was not the only thing this noblewoman possessed. Her identity has been controversial for centuries. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. The Chinese have a different saying for catching luck by the tail. They say to catch the golden phoenix by the tail. That's the phoenix that Yang Guifei was born with. In 719, a beautiful baby girl was born to an aristocratic Chinese family. Her name was Yang. But this girl was orphaned at an early age. The orphan girl was raised by an equally noble uncle. The girl's uncle educated and raised her as his children for a reason. He was a far-sighted man. The man knew that he could sell his niece later on for a lot of money by marrying her off. He also planned to make new connections through her marriage. The uncle's hopes were realized. He married the little girl off to Li Mao. The groom was a prince. That's how Yang got into the palace. At that time, Xuanzang ruled the country. He was more than 30 years older than Yang. When he met his new relative, he was already pretty tired of everything. He didn't think anything could surprise him. The emperor's wife had long since died. He had more than 24 offspring. Some of them he didn't even remember. The emperor didn't immediately take notice of Yang. She attended events, but everyone was so dressed up that it was hard to tell anyone apart. The closer encounter between the ruler and his son's wife took place under different circumstances. The palace eunuch knew that despite his age, his lord still longed for a beautiful wife. Then he took advantage of the ruler's right to enter any door in the palace and, as if by chance, led him into the bathing room where Yang was washing. Seeing his daughter-in-law's slender loins and scarlet lips, the emperor fell in love. But he could not officially divorce the girl from her son. So Yang herself went out on a limb. She told her husband she was going to become a court nun. So she was relieved of her duties as a wife. In her spare time, the new court nun not only prayed for the emperor, but entertained him in every way she could. The courtiers knew all about it, but the proprieties were observed for another 5 years until the prince remarried. Then the emperor and his mistress were able to act more openly. As a child, Yang bore the surname Yuyuan. But the emperor gave her a new name, Guifei, which translated as precious consort. He couldn't marry his beloved, but he treated her like a true lawful wife. The head of the Celestial Empire spent days watching Yang dance and listening to her songs. He was hardly involved in politics, but rather in maintaining his manhood to please his young concubine. Jan also kept an eye on her lover's health. It was to her advantage that the emperor should live as long as possible. After all her relatives were in power at this time. China was mired in bribery. Taxes became exorbitant, and the people grumbled. And the emperor didn't care. Those who dared to complain died in prison. As soon as Yang stomped her foot or started packing her things, the emperor immediately did as she wanted. It would have gone on like this if the nomads hadn't attacked China's borders. When Xuanzang realized it was time to flee, he was busy building a lavish palace for his concubine. The Chinese revolt against the corrupt authorities was spontaneous and violent. The ruler and his mistress and entourage headed south. But on the way, the soldiers who accompanied them revolted. They blamed everything on Jan and her relatives. Further versions of what happened differ. One version is that Yang was hanged from a fruit tree. According to another version, she put the noose around her own neck. A third version is that a servant girl who resembled her figure was killed instead of Yang. Some believe that the concubine fled to Japan after killing the maid. Allegedly from there she sent the emperor her stiletto of jade to prove her presence in this world. This is why the Japanese and Chinese believe that it is in Japan that Guifei's tomb is located. The emperor's own fate was also unenviable. He was taken prisoner by one of his sons. He died in captivity in 762. Millions died in the rebellion, but the rebellion was crushed. The Tang dynasty lost power forever because of the ruler's concubine. This family was replaced by the Song dynasty. It was the new dynasty that brought the fragmented country back together. And all this was done by a woman whose beauty drove the emperor mad. He's good too, though, forgetting his duties and spitting on the people with great pleasure. But the Chinese are not vindictive, they honor history, so they created a memorial with her statue in honor of Yang Guifei.